Hi, this is Dan. I'm here with some tips on how to become enlightened. Now, first of all, I'm not claiming to be enlightened myself, and that if you listen to me, you can become enlightened. No, it's more like, you know how Tiger Woods has a swing coach that helps him with his swing so he can become a better golfer? Well, that coach doesn't claim to be a better golfer than Tiger Woods. He just is there to help Tiger to become the best golfer he can. So I'm just here to help you become the most enlightened person that you can. So my first tip is to find yourself an enlightened guru, teacher, whatever term you want to use. Now the first thing is that someone that's enlightened will never claim to be enlightened. If you claim to be enlightened, that definitely means you're not. It's sort of like a catch-22. I don't know if you've read the book Catch-22, but in the novel, pilots who didn't want to fly on bombing missions could only get out if they claimed to be insane, and then the doctor would declare them insane so they didn't have to fly any more bombing missions. But if you claim you're insane, that means you can't be insane, because an insane person thinks that they're sane, right? So a person that is enlightened never thinks of themselves as being enlightened, so they'll never claim to be enlightened. Okay? Now the next thing is you want to look and find a enlightened guru, teacher that is very peaceful and blissful and equanimous, right? A good example is Eckhart Tolle. Everyone knows Eckhart. Eckhart comes across as just being a very even-keeled, peaceful, calm person. Can you imagine Eckhart Tolle out driving on the thruway? I don't know if he even drives. He's rich enough to probably have a chauffeur. But can you imagine Eckhart out on the thruway getting cut off and then getting all pissed off and honking the horn and fuck you, motherfucker, and then cutting the person off and getting in a fist fight? I don't know. I can't imagine Eckhart doing that. He seems very peaceful. Another person you may not have heard of, he's not quite as famous as Eckhart, is Benigno Massaro. Now, if you ever watch Benigno, he's always very, got a big grin, just very blissful, like he's just totally full of bliss. I mean, he looks like he's so full of bliss, like any moment his head could explode and just bliss would go everywhere. It's like a big zit of bliss, like a big bliss zit. He's a good person to choose. And it doesn't have to be a man. There's plenty of women too. Like take Gangaji. If you ever watch Gangaji, she kind of looks like she's like above it all. And so it's important to choose someone that has this calm and peaceful aura about them. Someone you don't want to choose is someone like Paul Hederman. Now, if you've ever seen Paul Hederman, when he gives his satsangs, he sometimes gets all worked up and he's ranting, and his eyebrows are all knit and his jaws are all clenched, and that's not good. Enlightened people, they don't knit their eyebrows and they don't clench their jaws, right? So you don't want someone like that. Sorry, Paul. I think Paul's a nice guy, but you don't see Paul like that. He's more like, Rrr. Okay, so you picked and you found your guru, blissful guru. The second thing is you want to find out their story. How did they become enlightened? If you've ever watched Conscious TV, that's the one with Ian McNay and his wife Renata McNay. They interview all these enlightened spiritual teachers. The very first thing they always ask is, tell us your story. What did you do? How did you become enlightened? They almost always kind of demur and say, well, my story's not important. This is just a story. But they always end up telling it anyways. So what you want to do is you want to hear what did they do, and then you want to emulate it. Because if you do what they did, you too can become enlightened. So if they went to India and spent a year in a cave, well, maybe that's not too practical. You might have to modify it a bit. Maybe you can take a week off from work and go in your bedroom and close the door and pull the shades down and stare at the wall for a week in the dark. But if they've read certain books or followed certain teachers, then you want to definitely buy those books and follow those teachers too. Now, some of these enlightened gurus, they've had pretty rough backgrounds, like alcoholism and drug addiction. You might not want to quite go to that extreme. I mean, you don't want to become a heroin addict just so you can become enlightened. But there's other things. I mean, maybe you have like food addictions. You could like get a bunch of chocolate and just keep eating chocolate, and then stop eating it, and then that can help you become enlightened, like they are. Then the third thing is you have to listen to what they say, because they're there to help you to also become like they are, right? So they might say things like pause throughout the course of the day and rest in awareness. So you should do that throughout the course of the day, pause and rest in awareness. They might say some things that sound kind of silly, but they're the coach, right? It's like if Tiger Woods' golf coach said to him, right before you hit these long drives, clench your butt cheeks really tight. And Tiger might think, what are you talking about, clenching my butt cheeks? What does it have to do with hitting the golf ball? But he's the coach. You don't question the coach. So you should listen to what they tell you to do and then do it. So that's kind of my summary of tips on how to become enlightened. So number one, find a blissful guru that doesn't claim to be enlightened. Number two is find out their story and emulate it, within your means, best you can. And then number three is to listen to whatever they say and to do it. So I'm confident that if you follow these tips that you too can become enlightened, and I'm here rooting for you.